From the moment Jasmine Crockett stepped backstage, she knew this was not going to be an ordinary debate. The hum of the studio, the flashing lights, the murmurs of an audience already primed for confrontation, all of it pressed against her like a physical weight. Yet, beneath the flutter of nerves, there was a sharp clarity, a focused determination. She had come prepared, not just with talking points, but with an arsenal of documents, official records, and meticulously organized evidence that could turn the entire narrative on its head. In that moment, she understood something crucial. Preparation was not just an advantage, it was power. And in a world where experience and reputation often dominate the conversation, being fully prepared could become her ultimate weapon. Kash Patel's voice boomed through the speakers, confident, practiced, almost theatrical in its delivery. He had walked into this moment assuming dominance, relying on years of Pentagon experience, a polished reputation, and the implicit weight of his past positions. To many, he appeared untouchable, a figure whose authority alone could intimidate a newcomer. But Crockett had learned long ago that confidence and credentials, no matter how impressive, could crumble when confronted by facts that were precise, organized, and undeniable. She had seen it before in courtrooms, in legal battles where a single overlooked detail could unravel months of strategy. And now, in front of millions of viewers, she was ready to prove the same principle applied on the national stage. Every detail mattered. The navy blue pantsuit she wore was deliberate, not flashy, not meant to distract, but professional, conveying seriousness and focus. Her folder, resting lightly against her thigh, was more than paper. It was her armor. Every document inside had been scrutinized, every statistic verified, every quote cross-checked. The OE, Inspector General's report from June 2022, the follow-up assessment from September 2023, sworn affidavits from former colleagues. They were not random selections, but strategic pieces in a meticulously constructed narrative. Crockett understood that in politics, in debates, in high-pressure confrontations, preparation could speak louder than any well-rehearsed monologue. As the moderator called her name, she felt the spotlight move toward her, bathing her in an intense, almost piercing light. Each step to the stage was measured, deliberate, projecting calm and control. In that instant, every second of preparation she had invested became visible, not in her words yet, but in her posture, in her quiet confidence, in the way she held herself against a formidable opponent who had underestimated her. Audiences are instinctively drawn to authenticity, and Crockett's composure broadcasted exactly that. A readiness forged from meticulous preparation, a calm power that could not be faked. Patel began his barrage almost immediately, attempting to paint her as inexperienced, as someone ill-equipped to handle national security matters. The words themselves were sharp, designed to wound, to unsettle, to provoke a reaction. But Crockett had anticipated every accusation, every rhetorical jab. While Patel relied on instinct and authority, she relied on research and foresight. The difference was palpable. As he spoke, she could see cracks forming, not immediately, but subtly, in the way his words lacked corroborating evidence, in the confidence that bordered on overconfidence, in the audience members who began shifting uneasily in their seats. The stage was set, and she had come armed not with bluster, but with the undeniable weight of truth. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady, measured, deliberate. Each sentence carefully constructed to both address Patel's claims and subtly introduce the evidence she held. The beauty of preparation lies in timing. Crockett knew exactly when to reveal each document, each report, each verification. Not all at once, not in a flood, but in a way that built tension, created anticipation, and maximized the impact on everyone watching. She had studied persuasion, human psychology, and courtroom strategy. She understood that evidence delivered at the right moment could do what rhetoric alone never could. It could command belief, provoke recognition, and shift perception irrevocably. Audiences often underestimate the power of preparation because it is invisible until revealed. What they see is the calm composure, the clarity of expression, the controlled pace of speech. But behind that is hours, even days of careful research. Crockett had anticipated questions, rehearsed responses, and mapped the possible paths Patel might take to derail the conversation. Preparation is not just memorization. It is anticipation, strategy, and a deep understanding of both the subject matter and human reaction. Each document in her folder had a purpose. Each citation was designed to corroborate her points and expose weaknesses in Patel's claims. She did not need theatrics or insults. She needed precision, and she had it in abundance. By the time the confrontation reached its peak, the consequences of preparation became undeniable. Patel, once brimming with confidence, began to falter, his interruptions less forceful, his smirk replaced with uncertainty. The audience, initially divided, began to sense the shift, the power dynamic changing subtly but unmistakably. Preparation had not only armed Crockett with the tools to defend herself, it had allowed her to dictate the narrative, to lead the debate, to make her opponent reactive rather than proactive. What began as a defensive posture transformed into a commanding presence, all because she had invested in preparation as a form of power. When the documents were revealed, when the Inspector General's report appeared on the screen, the magnitude of her foresight became clear. Preparation had created leverage, authority, and credibility. Crockett had not simply come to respond. She had come to control the flow of information, to shape the conversation, to expose contradictions with irrefutable evidence. And as the studio fell silent, the audience's collective recognition of her preparedness became evident in their reaction. She had demonstrated a simple but profound truth. In any high-stakes encounter, those who come prepared are the ones who emerge victorious. Ultimately, Crockett's performance underscored that preparation is not merely a behind-the-scenes effort. It is an active, living force in any confrontation. It transforms nervousness into confidence, uncertainty into clarity, and potential defeat into opportunity. Whether in politics, law, or life itself, preparation is the differentiator between those who react and those who lead. And in that CNN town hall, under the glaring lights and the watchful eyes of millions, Jasmine Crockett proved unequivocally that preparation was not just power, it was the very instrument of triumph. The room seemed smaller now, though it hadn't changed. The lights were brighter, the cameras more intrusive, and the air thick with anticipation. Jasmine Crockett could feel it in every nerve, the intensity of scrutiny, the silent expectations of millions watching, and the invisible pressure of history weighing on her shoulders. Yet in that moment, she realized something essential. True confidence is not loud, it is deliberate. It is measured, grounded in preparation and principle, and most importantly, it is unshakable even when chaos surrounds you. This was the second act, the moment where experience alone could no longer carry a person forward. This was where insight, wisdom, and clarity demanded attention. Patel's previous attempts at dominance had faltered. His confident assertions now seemed rehearsed, predictable, even vulnerable. Crockett noticed the subtle shifts in his stance, the micro-expressions of uncertainty, the slight hesitation before each carefully constructed rebuttal. These were openings, not because of arrogance or luck, but because Crockett had invested in something more powerful than charm or rhetoric. She had invested in understanding. She knew his patterns, his reliance on authority, and his assumptions about public perception. Preparation had given her more than facts. It had given her intuition, a sense of timing and strategy that was impossible to fake. When she spoke, her voice carried an unexpected calm, a resonance that cut through the studio noise and the tension in the room. It was not merely words she was delivering. It was conviction shaped by knowledge and insight. Every phrase was chosen with purpose, every point layered with evidence and implication. She did not need to shout, because authority and truth do not require volume. They demand attention. In this high-stakes encounter, Crockett was not reacting to Patel. She was guiding him, compelling him to confront realities he had hoped to avoid. Preparation, she had learned, is about control. Control over the narrative, control over perception, and ultimately, control over outcomes. Crockett had dissected every possible argument, identified each potential attack, and mapped out countermeasures with precision. The reports she presented were not random selections, but meticulously curated pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, left no room for ambiguity. Each statistic, each timeline, each corroborated account acted as a weapon, a spotlight exposing weaknesses in the opposition's claims. She understood that credibility is not granted. It is demonstrated, proven in the smallest details, and yet de-reinforced relentlessly. Patel attempted to regain footing, interjecting with polished lines meant to discredit her, to shift attention away from the evidence she had revealed. But Crockett anticipated every interruption. Her mind operated like a chessboard, each move calculated not just to defend, but to advance her position. She allowed him to speak, letting his words reveal overconfidence and gaps in reasoning, and then responded with precision, matching calm with fact, patience with logic. This strategy was subtle but devastating. Audiences, both live and watching at home, could feel the shift in power, even if they could not yet articulate why. Confidence grounded in preparation creates its own gravity, pulling attention and credibility naturally toward it. Every glance she cast, every step she took, reinforced an unspoken message. She was ready. Not because she wanted to prove something to Patel, not because she sought applause, but because preparation had instilled a profound self-assurance. It was visible in the way she organized her thoughts, in the way she controlled pacing, in the way she allowed silence to punctuate her points, letting the audience absorb the gravity of the evidence she presented. Preparation is more than knowledge. It is presence. It transforms anxiety into poise, hesitation into deliberation, and vulnerability into strategic strength. As the debate continued, the audience's attention sharpened. Patel's confident tone, once commanding, began to waver. He stumbled over details he had assumed were settled, faltered when confronted with records he had not anticipated, and increasingly reacted rather than acted. Crockett had created a controlled environment where truth became the ultimate authority. Every prepared document, every cross-referenced fact, every well-timed clarification not only neutralized his attacks, but gradually shifted PG perception. What she had prepared weeks in advance became visible in real time as dominance, not loud dominance, but intellectual and moral authority that could not be contested. Crockett understood that preparation is fundamentally about foresight. While others rely on improvisation and instinct under pressure, she relied on anticipation. She had mapped every likely scenario, every question, every potential line of attack. Preparation allowed her not just to respond, but to shape the flow, guiding the debate subtly so that each revelation appeared natural, yet impactful. This foresight transformed the arena from a battleground of words into a stage where facts dictated the narrative and strategy dictated perception. Audiences rarely see the work behind such moments of power. They witness calm composure, articulate responses, and measured confidence, but the hours, The late nights, the meticulous verification, all of that is invisible until the results manifest. Crockett had internalized this principle. Her calm exterior was not a mask. It was the natural outcome of preparation, and it projected authenticity that could not be feigned. Authenticity coupled with preparation is a force multiplier. It makes words heavier, presence more commanding, and influence undeniable. By the final phase of the debate, the transformation was clear. Patel, who had started with theatrical confidence, was increasingly defensive, reactive, even cautious. Crockett's preparation had not only allowed her to counter every attack, but had put her in a position to guide the discussion. Authority no longer came from experience alone. It came from evidence, from anticipation, and from the ability to deliver truth with unwavering clarity. The subtle shift in control was almost tangible, a lesson in how preparation can turn vulnerability into opportunity and challenge into triumph. When the moderator finally called a pause, the audience's response reflected a collective recognition. Crockett had demonstrated the undeniable impact of preparation. She had transformed the abstract concept of readiness into a tangible, commanding force. The lesson was profound. Preparation is not about perfection. It is about understanding, anticipating, and executing with precision under pressure. It is the difference between being reactive and being in control, between being overshadowed and emerging as the voice that commands attention. In life, in leadership, in moments of confrontation or opportunity, the principle remains the same. Confidence grounded in preparation is formidable. It shapes perception, commands respect, and creates influence that is impossible to ignore. Crockett's performance was a demonstration, not just for Patel, not just for the audience, but as a universal truth: those who prepare are those who prevail. And in that room, under the glare of cameras and the judgment of millions, Jasmine Crockett's preparation spoke louder than any words, louder than any theatrics, louder even than the clamor of authority, leaving an indelible impression that power, when grounded in readiness, is absolute. The room was silent before she spoke, not because it was expected, but because silence is a natural precursor to attention. Jasmine Crockett stood poised, the subtle weight of responsibility pressing against her shoulders. She could feel it in the air, thick with expectation, every eye trained on her, every thought anticipating her next move. It was in this silence, more than any applause or recognition, that true power began to emerge. The capacity to influence, to lead, to inspire, was not born from charisma alone. It was born from clarity of purpose, from an unwavering vision that refuses to bend in the face of doubt. Powerful individuals, she had observed, often mistook noise for authority, volume for dominance. But real influence does not shout. It projects itself quietly, steadily, in a manner that demands attention without demanding submission. Crockett had learned that lesson early. In every confrontation, every negotiation, every challenge she had faced, the difference between being overlooked and being recognized lay in one immutable truth: preparation multiplied by conviction equals unstoppable presence. In that moment, every second of preparation she had invested crystallized into a force that drew the eyes and minds of all those present. The opposition, expecting hesitation, delivered their arguments with practiced bravado. They assumed that a storm of words would destabilize her, that speed and volume could overwhelm deliberate thought. But Crockett did not merely react. She orchestrated. Each response was precise, each counterpoint strategically timed, each pause carefully measured to let the audience internalize the weight of her argument. In the world of influence, timing is as crucial as content. Speak too early, and your words are lost. Speak too late, and they may fall flat. Speak deliberately, with purpose, and the effect is multiplied 1,000-fold. She noticed the subtle reactions, the micro-expressions that reveal true understanding before conscious thought catches up. Doubt flickered across faces, skepticism shifted to curiosity, hesitation transformed into respect. These were not accidents. They were the inevitable consequence of combining insight with preparation. Knowledge, when harnessed correctly, has a gravitational pull. It draws attention, focuses thought, and commands belief. Crockett's mastery lay not just in what she knew, but in how she conveyed it. Every phrase, every example, every anecdote was carefully selected to resonate, to anchor her authority in both intellect and authenticity. Opponents attempted diversion tactics, raising tangents, hoping to disrupt the flow she had meticulously constructed. But Crockett's mind was a reservoir of anticipation. She had foreseen every curve, every redirection, every attempt was to destabilize her narrative. Preparation, she had learned, is not about memorizing scripts. It is about mastering the landscape, understanding the terrain of human expectation and reaction, and navigating it with the confidence of someone who has walked it countless times before. Each interruption was transformed into an opportunity, each challenge into a platform to assert clarity and control. Audiences are perceptive. They sense authenticity even before understanding content. Crockett's calm, unwavering presence projected more than intellect. It projected trust. Trust is the currency of influence, earned not in a single speech, but in the meticulous accumulation of credible action, deliberate articulation, and consistent integrity. When she spoke, the weight of truth accompanied every word, cutting through theatrics and empty confidence. This was not performance. It was command, and the room could feel it vibrating through every gesture, every glance, every inflection. Her preparation extended beyond facts and figures. It encompassed awareness of audience psychology, of the subtle ways perception shapes reality. She understood that humans respond to confidence, but authentic confidence, not forced bravado. Her body language, her eye contact, the rhythm of her speech. All these elements were deliberately aligned to reinforce her message, to synchronize external perception with internal mastery. It was a dance of influence that appeared effortless, precisely because it was grounded in relentless, disciplined practice. Crockett had also learned the importance of restraint. In moments of confrontation, restraint is power disguised. To speak only when necessary, to weigh each word, to pause strategically. This is authority in action. Opponents, often intoxicated by their own verbosity, fail to recognize the potency of measured silence and deliberate articulation. Her ability to harness this restraint amplified the impact of every statement, leaving impressions that lingered far beyond the immediate exchange. As the debate unfolded, the transformation was evident. Skeptics began to lean forward. Curiosity replaced dismissal, and respect emerged in subtle nods and attentive expressions. Crockett was no longer responding to arguments. She was shaping understanding. She guided perception, gently but firmly steering the conversation toward clarity and insight. Preparation, when paired with the courage to assert it, becomes transformative. It does not merely neutralize challenges, it converts them into opportunities to solidify authority and influence. The opposition's confidence, once seemingly unshakable, began to waver. Their arguments, though rehearsed, lacked the depth and flexibility that preparation brings. Crockett's knowledge was adaptable, her reasoning fluid, her conviction unwavering. Authority, she had learned, is not static. It is demonstrated in the ability to navigate complexity with clarity, to remain composed under pressure, and to deliver insight that resonates beyond the moment. Every pause, every articulation, every deliberate emphasis reinforced her dominance, not through force, but through intellect and presence. Audience attention, once fragmented, became concentrated. Every eye followed her, every mind engaged with her logic, every heartbeat resonated with her energy. This is the essence of influence. When preparation and conviction converge, they create a gravitational field of attention. People are drawn in, not by spectacle, but by substance. They respond instinctively to clarity, to mastery, to authenticity. Crockett had internalized this principle, transforming potential anxiety into an instrument of power, tension into opportunity, and scrutiny into affirmation. By the end of the engagement, the difference was undeniable. Her presence had shifted the room's dynamics. She had demonstrated that influence is not about who speaks first or loudest. It is about who speaks with purpose, who commands attention without demanding it, and who projects authority grounded in knowledge and preparation. Crockett had transformed the abstract idea of confidence into a tangible, commanding force, leaving a lasting impression not only on her opponents, but on every observer. The lesson is universal. In any arena, professional, personal, or public, preparation multiplied by clarity of purpose equals unshakable influence. Volume cannot replace insight, noise cannot substitute for strategy, and theatrics cannot outshine authenticity. Those who invest in preparation, who understand the terrain before they step into it, and who articulate truth with confidence, possess a power that is both enduring and transformative. Crockett's performance, a demonstration of this principle in action, reminds us that influence is earned, not claimed, and that preparation is the foundation of every lasting success. The moment felt electric, charged with the quiet intensity of expectation. Every eye was fixed on Jasmine Crockett, not out of curiosity alone, but because in the space between words and silence, true authority announces itself. There is a distinction between mere attention and captivated focus. The first can be commanded, but the second must be earned. Crockett had earned it through an unrelenting commitment to understanding, preparation, and self-discipline, a triad that transforms potential into tangible impact. In that charged silence, the stage was set, not for argument but for awakening. The world often confuses activity with achievement. People move, speak, and react, believing motion equates to progress. Crockett had observed this for years, in boardrooms, courtrooms, classrooms, and streets alike. Motion without intention is noise. Activity without strategy is futility. The true power of leadership lies in measured, deliberate action, guided by vision, clarity, and unwavering commitment. Every step, every phrase, every decision must be anchored in purpose. This principle, often overlooked by the restless, is what separates fleeting influence from enduring authority. As she began to speak, her words did not just fill the air, they penetrated thought. They carried weight because they were the product of disciplined reflection and rigorous preparation. Each sentence was deliberate, each phrase chosen to resonate deeply, each pause designed to let meaning sink into the mind before rushing on. The art of influence, she understood, is as much about timing as it is about content. Speak too quickly, and insight is lost. Speak too slowly, and momentum falters. Speak with precision, conviction, and rhythm, and the audience is compelled, voluntarily surrendering attention to clarity. Crockett's adversaries, accustomed to loud assertions and overconfident displays, were caught in the subtle trap of expectation. They believed that force of voice equaled authority, that repetition could substitute for substance. But authority is invisible until demonstrated, and substance, when wielded effectively, carries a gravitational pull that noise cannot match. She had prepared not just for the facts of debate, but for the psychology of human perception. Every gesture, every inflection, every carefully timed smile or frown worked to reinforce her credibility, subtly aligning external perception with internal mastery. The room responded, though silently at first. Micro-wukui. Expressions flickered across faces, subtle signs that understanding and engagement were taking root before conscious recognition could acknowledge it. This is the power of preparation. It is anticipatory, adaptive, and proactive. She did not react impulsively to challenges. She redirected them, transforming potential threats into opportunities for affirmation. Each interruption, each attempted diversion by opponents, became a platform for deeper insight. The prepared mind does not stumble. It flows, turning obstacles into instruments of influence. Knowledge alone, however, is insufficient. Crockett had seen brilliant individuals fail because intellect, without connection, falls flat. Influence is the art of connecting thought to perception, logic to emotion, and vision to action. Her mastery lay not only in what she knew, but in how she conveyed it, effortlessly, authentically, and convincingly. People respond to authenticity instinctively, recognizing when words are rooted in truth rather than performance. Her presence carried that authenticity, a quiet yet undeniable force that commanded attention and respect. She employed restraint, understanding that silence amplifies speech and that brevity can outweigh verbosity. To speak only when necessary, to weigh every word, to measure each statement against the landscape of perception. This is the hallmark of authority. Opponents, accustomed to dominating through quantity, struggled to adapt. Crockett's deliberate restraint projected confidence, suggesting mastery without arrogance. The mind unconsciously aligns with confidence that is calm, precise, and rooted in preparation, and the audience, sensing this, became increasingly receptive. Every detail mattered: the rhythm of her words, the cadence of her voice, the subtle emphasis on critical points, all contributed to a holistic impression of competence and credibility. Leadership, she understood, is not a collection of isolated actions, but a symphony of deliberate choices, each reinforcing the others. The town hall debate between Jasmine Crockett and Kash Patel did not end with a simple handshake or a perfunctory statement. It ended with a clear demonstration of what leadership, preparation, and integrity truly mean in modern politics. From the very first moment, Crockett established that knowledge, calm composure, and strategic foresight could outmatch bluster, bravado, and superficial confidence. She entered the arena with more than facts. She carried authority rooted in experience, legal expertise, and a deep understanding of constitutional responsibility. Every answer, every rebuttal, and every presentation of evidence served not just to counter Patel's claims, but to illuminate a broader truth. Substance will always outshine style when courage and preparation meet. Patel, representing a style reliant on reputation and theatrics, found himself unable to pivot when confronted with irrefutable facts. The clash was more than personal. It was symbolic. It represented the ongoing struggle between appearances and accountability, between authority assumed and authority earned. Crockett's strategy, calm, precise, and unwavering, showed that public discourse does not have to be a battlefield of insults. It can be a platform for clarity, transparency, and informed debate, where the merit of ideas reigns supreme. Beyond the spectacle of live television, the debate's true significance lies in its wider social and political impact. Millions of viewers witnessed a rare moment in politics, a confrontation where facts and preparation prevailed over fear, manipulation, and theatrics. The viral response on social media demonstrated that audiences crave substance and clarity, that people recognize and reward integrity, and that public opinion can shift dramatically when accountability is presented in a compelling, organized manner. Crockett's performance became a blueprint for Mahdi. Earn political engagement, research meticulously, present boldly, and never underestimate the power of calm composure in the face of aggression. Ultimately, the debate was not about who won in the traditional sense. It was about setting a standard. It was about showing that courage is measured not in loud declarations, but in the consistent pursuit of truth and responsibility. It reminded viewers that leadership demands preparation, resilience, and the ability to hold others accountable without losing sight of principles. The lessons extend far beyond the immediate political context. They resonate in classrooms, workplaces, and personal development, emphasizing that evidence, integrity, and strategic thinking are universally powerful tools. In conclusion, the Crockett Patel Town Hall was more than a televised debate. It was a masterclass in leadership, strategy, and ethical courage. It demonstrated that preparation trumps improvisation, evidence trumps rhetoric, and integrity trumps intimidation. It leaves a lasting message for every citizen, professional, and aspiring leader. When you step into any arena, political, professional, or personal, arm yourself with knowledge, maintain calm under pressure, and let truth guide your every move. That is how legacies are built, reputations strengthened, and change enacted. The echoes of this debate will linger not just because of the controversy it stirred, but because of the standard it set, a standard that demands clarity, courage, and unwavering commitment to accountability.